right? So, if we're looking at this, just to keep you guys aware, there were two Ohio constitutions. Two. That was it. Somebody asked in eighth, seventh grade yesterday, how is it that the state became a state in 1803, but the Constitution was 1802? Anybody else have that momentary thought when they were going through this? Or did you skip past you on that one? May have gotten past you. So the formal additions or addition to the country, you actually have to petition to become a state. You have to then create a constitution, create all the law, the basic origins, and then it's presented to the Congress. Congress goes through the process, gives it to the president. President signs off, and then you guys officially become state. So 1802, they had to have everything created and developed and ready to go. And then 1803, we became the state of Ohio. And that's when the Constitution essentially went into effect. Now, the original Constitution was a lot more vague, which is typical of many, many things that we have. Like even our Constitution has some vague points in it, some of them on purpose. Some of them do it because they want to have that little bit of leeway to adjust as time goes by. So the first one, the General Assembly. For those who don't know, our Congress. If you guys go down to the Capitol, in Columbus, and you go into the Congress, the official title we give it is the Ohio General Assembly. That's the official name. If you ever hear that, the Assembly, or typically you don't hear about it other than the General Assembly or the Assembly. Sometimes. They were the ones in charge because they wanted the legislators to have more control than the king or the governor, right? So they had it backwards, very, very much like if you think about the origins of the southern states and the Articles of Confederation. The states would have more power, right? And they were afraid that the governor would take too much, so they made the legislature the more powerful group, and then they would appoint everyone from there. The governor was elected, but had only a couple of powers, very, very limited. You can do this, and you can do that, and that's it. Everything else, General Assembly. Supreme Court only actually had to meet once a year, but they had to do it in every single county. So Ohio had all these counties, and they had to go to every single county. Now, keeping in mind, Medina County, Cuyahoga County, we have about 80 counties. Right? So if we have 365 days in a year, keeping in mind the travel time back then, right? Because it wasn't as fast as we could go. So they would horse and buggy it to the next county, sit for at least one day. That doesn't mean they weren't there for 4 or 5 days to hear all the cases, and then move to the next county. 4 or 5 days, next case, move to the next county. So it was very, very laborious. A lot of moving, very difficult to get everything done. And then we had tons and tons of debt. So when we were part of the Northwest Territory, historically, we were one of the areas, in order to become, we had to break off from other sections. And we had done so much that we had this large debt we still had to pay for. So we had lots and lots of taxes that we had to figure out how to pay for these things we already bought. Right? It's kind of like, has anybody ever heard of somebody going underwater in a vehicle or in a house? Typically it's in a car. So I had a buddy of mine that was not very wise in his spending. Years ago, he bought himself one of those new Scions that had the one. It's weird. They're still out there. The one side of it had the window completely. So if I'm driving, I would look back and the whole corner was a window, rather than having that metal thing in the middle. He thought it was the coolest thing, so he bought one, and he enjoyed it. He loved it. However, financially couldn't keep it up, and so he sold it back, and got himself a cheaper car. So here's the problem. He still owed, I think, $15,000 on that car. So it's not like you sell it back as free and clear. They gave him $10,000. He still owed $5,000, and he bought himself a new car, old one that was around $7,000 or $8,000. So he owed $15,000. So he was underwater. He was beyond what he originally wanted to spend. So the state of Ohio, same thing. We had all this debt, and then we thought we would get some help from the federal government, and they gave us a little bit, but not enough. And then we kept on adding more and more and more and more. So lots of issues there. Okay. Next part. The new version made some changes. Right. So um, the lieutenant governor became an elected position. The treasurer became an elected position. So all those guys that you guys wrote down, and Ohio happens to be all guys, were elected. Now all of a sudden, we, the people, had more say in who was running the state. And then same thing happened in New York. If you guys remember, the whole Governor Cuomo had to resign. The lieutenant governor, which is essentially the vice president, takes over that position, and then they have to appoint the lieutenant governor. Yada yada yada. Judges also became elected. We get to pick the judges now as well. It's actually one of the more mundane parts of our ballots. When you guys get the ballots and you guys are going to vote at some point in time, they're going to have Supreme Court justices for the state of Ohio. Ohio has term limits, so you can only run, like you can run as many times as you want in Ohio for the judgeship, but you're in for a certain number of years. Whereas the federal Supreme Court is for life. And there's actually some discussion I just heard recently about them adjusting potentially even that and getting rid of the for life issue at the federal level, but don't know if that's going to change or not. Powers of the governor, not significantly increased. They were given some more. And then over time, which is what typically happens, more and more power has been given to the governor. So, for example, in the state of Ohio during the shutdown, the pandemic, the governor didn't really shut down the state of Ohio. Anybody know that? It was the health department that shut down Ohio. And that was the big, huge, it was Dr. Acton, the woman that was in charge. What was happening was the governor was coming up with all these ideas with his posse and going to the Department of Health and saying, all right, Dr. Acton, here's the orders we need you to sign. And then she would sign off on them. And there was a couple of times we were watching what we all call it Wine with DeWine every day at 2. I'd sit there and watch him talk for about an hour, sometimes repeat himself. I did something during the pandemic that was kind of funny. I had a form they had to fill out. They had to listen to one of the Wine with DeWines. And they had to say, because he would always start out with, hello, Ohio, welcome back, hope everyone's doing well. And he would say, the tie I'm wearing is Ohio Northern's tie, and I got it from a friend of mine who has a son or daughter that goes to Ohio. So everything. He'd have a Browns helmet, and he'd have a Bengals helmet, and he would talk about something sports, something college, something weird. He'd have a tie or a pin or a hat or the masks. And then he would go through a couple of things. And then you go down the list, and then Lieutenant Governor Huso would speak, and then Dr. Acton would speak, and then they would have a special guest, and then they would end with some little flowery little saying or a video. Anyways, all those times I was watching, I remember there was near the very, very beginning of the whole shutdown, the elections, and I think I mentioned this to you guys, the governor couldn't stop us from electing or going to elections, but the health department could. So he had created this order, given it to Dr. Acton, and she signed it and made it official, not allowing anyone to be able to go to these locations. And so the health department kind of gets that. And that's, again, one of those powers of the governor where you kind of we didn't give it to him, but it kind of created itself over the years. For those who aren't aware, the Ohio General Assembly has voted anything that the health department does now. I believe it's enacted for 90 days. The 60th day to 90th day, the Ohio General Assembly has to have it presented to them, and they have to be able to vote on it by the end of, I think, 60 days or 90 days. I think it's 90 days to either keep it or get rid of it. So we can't have in Ohio currently, based off of the new law, a ongoing shutdown. So the General Assembly can get together, and then we can contact our assembly members and say, hey, we need you to vote against this or whatnot. So it limits legislative powers. So retroactive laws, these are, in the Constitution, they call them ex post facto. So I can't make a law that's going to go back and get you for something you already did. Right? So if it's legal today and tomorrow they make it illegal, I can't go backwards and say, well, yesterday, before it was illegal, you did it. And I know it was legal yesterday, but now it's illegal, so we're going to come back and you can't do that. Same thing again in federal law, ex post facto. I can't create a law and then go backwards and punish you for something that's now illegal when it wasn't illegal before. And then this one's kind of a silly one, but what was happening was you'd have Congress people presenting bills, all different formats. So some were using this font, some were using this font, some were doing it in this. Keep in mind, we're not in a typing era right now. We're still in a writing era, 1850s. We may have some printing presses here and there. But the idea was with the printing press, let's get it all looking exactly the same. So there's actually in Ohio, I'm not sure how many other states have this. If any of you guys created a law, you have to give it to this, I can't remember the name of it now. You literally gave it to them. They would type it up in the format that everyone else would see, and then they would give it back to you. So now it's all completely legal. It's all the right way, the right format. That way it's consistent across the board and not different. So it was a kind of a silly one, but practically it was good. Supreme Court, they created district courts. So now in Medina County, different counties, we have state district courts, and then from there it goes to the state Supreme Court. So they weren't traveling as much. Debt limitations, no debts. Up to a certain point, no more spending. We hit the ceiling and you're done. Right now, that's adjusted again over the years, but that was based off of the massive debt that we built up. Poll taxes. Remember, we were talking about the 19th Amendment, talking about the poll taxes. We had done that prior to that one going, so we were good. And they require that tax funds be used only for their stated purpose. This has become a big, huge issue of contention. My sister actually, her company sued the state of Ohio, 15 years ago. So who in here has ever heard of I think it's the Super Lotto Mega Millions. It's like interstate gambling, essentially the lottery. We used to have just the state of Ohio. I think we still have a version of that. But then there was the big one that's like the massive amount of money, and it includes Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. I think there's like 5 or 6 states involved, and I can't remember all of them. But the issue with that one is, according to the Constitution, that money is supposed to go, any of the money that we get is supposed to go directly to Ohio. Some sort of probably it's supposed to go towards education. I'll get back to the quotes in a second. But if we're all spending money in Ohio towards this, and someone in Indiana wins, how are they supposed to divide up the tax dollars? Is it supposed to all go to Indiana because that's where the guy was, or the girl was that won it, or do they divide up amongst the 5 states? Is it So that became a big issue. So that was the lawsuit. We're not legally allowed to be part of this. But obviously, they lost because we still have it. The quotes unquote education. What they do is they take the money and they put it in the general fund, and it's supposed to be funneled into education. But how many schools in Ohio are still struggling to get by? Lots and lots and lots. And yet there's not enough money still in the funds. Same thing with gambling. It's one of those things where all the taxes from gambling and casinos are supposed to go to schools. Well, if that's the case, why are there so many schools not successfully being funded, right? So, all right. The government of Ohio fits in the federal structure, so we are a republic. Our Constitution follows the federal Constitution, so the supreme law of the land is the federal U.S. Constitution. Our Constitution has to abide by those major rules, and that goes back to the 14th Amendment. All of our laws also have to be legal for the federal level as well. And then, again, just the basic here. The Ohio Constitution outlines powers and functions of the state government, and then gives the local governments their marching orders, per se. So if Brunswick wants to do something, they have to follow the state of Ohio laws. Article 6, this one, which we haven't got to, we'll touch on it. That's the full faith and credit, which is if someone comes from out of state with a license coming through Ohio, we have to accept their license as well. You guys good there? Awesome. Next one. Now, this is what our roles as citizens. So, what can we do in Ohio? Assisting the government. The first at the state level, we all do this. And I think you guys are all doing it right now if you have a job, paying your taxes, right, providing the funds to the state of Ohio to do what they need to do. If you want to serve in the National Guard is a state militia, essentially. So you would be serving in the state of Ohio. Now, the federal government can federalize you and take you and use you wherever you need to. But if you're part of the National Guard in Ohio, most of your duties will be in Ohio. So, like when they're doing some of those vaccination things and they were having the military doing certain stuff, the National Guard was the people that were called up and they were put in those locations to help out. Does anybody know anyone who's in the reserves? It's similar, except reserves are formal military. Like my dad was part of the reserves. When the wars happen, you're basically the first line of people that are pulled in, and then after that, then they can go up to the National Guard. And then if you want to run for state office, which I have thought about it, but I would probably have to start local first and then go bigger, and then voting in general, just voting. I had an argument years ago with this guy. It was a full 45. It was a drive up. My uncle and aunt lived in Litchfield, and this guy and my brother were living in Cleveland, and so and it was one of those things where they were roommates. And my brother was telling us, he had no place to go. Can he come out for Easter? It was Easter. Can he come out and have dinner with us? Of course. So they came out, and I told my family I'll drive them back. So the whole ride home. So it had to have been like 2007 because that was right when we had the smoking ban in Ohio. Right when you guys were born, they passed that law, or around the same time. Whole time, good 45 minutes, he and I are discussing and arguing, debating politics. George W. Bush was the president at the time, his politics, the smoking ban, you name it, we were going through it. And so at the very, very end of the drive, we were just pulling into the driveway, about to drop him off, and I look at him and I said, "So who did you vote for in the last election?" He goes, "Oh, I didn't vote." Like, why in the world would I just spend 45 minutes debating with you all these political things if you're not going to have your voice heard by voting, right? So every once in a while, I'll start now my conversations. If we get into a debate, who'd you vote for? And if they say I don't vote, it's like, I'm not going to have this conversation. And then this one, signing petitions to place issues on the ballot. This one, you guys, has anybody seen this happening? Usually they have it outside the DMV, or sometimes they'll do it around grocery stores or places where they know people are always going to go in. You have to be 18 to sign it. The group that tried to legalize marijuana, they had one in 2014. It didn't pass. 2015, sorry. And then they tried to do it again in 2018. And they had a big, huge push, and they had lots of signatures. But then you found out that I think it was like half the signatures that they needed. I think 200,000, and they had 100,000 of those were underage. They were like 16, 17-year-olds that were like, yeah, but they weren't registered to vote, so it didn't count. So I had to laugh because I thought, I wonder if they were high when they were getting signatures. Yeah, so you have to, at the local level, civic activities, meetings of local boards and commissions. This is actually kind of happens more often than sometimes we even think. Who are my Brunswick people in here? All right, 2. So this happened with where the Sonic was. There was city showed up and they were in favor of that. So there was a big push there. Giant Eagle tried to put their get-go where the Starbucks is right now. That was the original plan, but enough local board meetings that they were able to get enough people in to say no. So the community behind. There's another one for, is it Cabela's? The big, huge store. They were going to go in where that Volkswagen dealership is, but there was a big push to not have them there for whatever reason. We thought it was a great idea, but there was a group in the community that just spoke louder, and so that was kibosh. So there's all sorts of little ways that you can do that. And then, again, voting. We tend to see more. Well, here's one for Brunswick. Meyer wants their liquor license. It's on the ballot for certain areas of Brunswick. So, like, it's on my ballot in my area. So if you live on Brunswick over by Strongsville, it won't be on yours because that district isn't part of Meyer's area. So Meyer's, and they had to do this. Giant Eagle had to do it. LARB, you guys know where LARB is? Have you guys ever seen LARB? It's on. Is it Thai?
Yes.
It's Thai. As you're going from through Brunswick into Strongsville on Pearl, it's called LARB, and they had to apply for their liquor license. Scene 75, same thing. They had to put their liquor license up for a vote for the people in the area. So most of the stuff you guys vote on will be a 1-to-1 vote. It's going to be practical. It's going to be in your city. There's one on the ballot this year for Medina County Health Department. So keeping the funding going or minimizing it or adding more money. So again, most of the times you guys vote will be more of a local effect, a direct effect. All right. So I believe, are we on the back now? Okay. So a lot of this stuff is actually just a repeat of what we just talked about. So Ohio's going to assist government in addressing 2 examples of citizens' involvement at the state level. So what are 2 things you guys can do at the state level? Voting. Yeah, that's one for sure. And what's the other simple one? Pay your taxes. The other ones require a little bit more involvement. We're looking at National Guard, running for office, signing petitions, getting more involved there. And then 2 examples of the local level. What do you do at the local level? Voting again, right? Vote. And then getting involved at the board meetings. You can also run for office at the city level too. Speaking of that, Brunswick has the mayor's up for re-election. If anything's really, really bad. Although there's no one running against him, so I think he's going to win. As long as he gets 1 vote. Actually, he doesn't need 1. As long as no one's running against him. By default, he'll become a mayor. Again. Okay. Which change in Ohio government resulted in the from the Constitution of 1851? Do we increase our debt? No. Popular vote elections for judges? Creation of retroactive laws? That's a no. We don't want that. Or significantly increasing the power of government of the governor? Do we significantly increase? No. So the answer is going to fall back to B. Popular vote. So we get to vote for our judges. Complete the diagram by matching the difficulty in governing Ohio under the original Constitution with the solution provided by the Ohio Constitution. So if we're looking at the first one, Supreme Court required to meet once a year in every county. What was the fix? Yeah.
The district courts.
District courts were created. Right. So we took a lot of the pressure off the Supreme Court justice. General Assembly had too much power over the other branches, so what do? You got it. Major executive officials to be elected by the popular vote. So we started to have more say in who gets to be those offices. And then state burdened with a significant amount of debt, we put in nice little limits on their spending. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for Ohio. That's it. So the big thing is you know that we have 2 constitutions, and then the power shifts from the original, more General Assembly to the one we have now, which is a little more of a equality-based situation. All right, let me go over the packet with you guys. So we have this because there's a couple different versions. All right, so we have our districts here, which I'll click on here. So again, you guys I think did okay with this. I'm grading my other classes right now, and a lot of them jump to the federal government. And we have Anthony Gonzalez, who's our federal rep, not our state rep. And you can see that just by the pictures themselves here, there's just more districts for the House, and then there's less districts for the Senate. So that way we have our 2, and it's supposed to be equally populated amongst all of those. That's why if you go up here, this district up here is super small, so is that one, but it's based off of population. There's a lot more people living in those areas. Actually, pull this over. Good. Okay. So again, most of these you guys did fine on. 99 members, 2-year term. They do have term limits, and the salary is it's a nice little stipend in there, right? So you can be two terms,
8 years total, and then you have to take a break, and then you can come back again. So that's the one that we do have term limits in Ohio, but you have to take a break, and you can come back later on. Senate, 33 members, 4-year term. President of the district, similar, 2 successive terms, 4 years, 8 years total. Take a little break, and you can come back. Legislative powers. So if there are definitions, I'm going to kind of leave those. Referendum. Yeah. Gubernatorial. Anything governor? No. Oh, that's why. That's me. Oh. No, that's not the one. Sorry. That's the one. The governor. Ohio's chief executive. 4-year term, and he's about done. I think he's got a couple more years left. Executive qualifications, governor's powers, reprieves, commutations, pardons. So the commutations and pardons shortens the sentence. So if you were in for 25 years to life, I'm going to bring it 15 years you've been in. All right, you're done. You're good. Pardons, you're just free and clear. See ya. Go home. Lieutenant governor, judicial branch. Right. Most of these guys, again, you guys are okay. That's that 1802 thing. Ohio's $20 million debt. Fund by giving the canal. Companies. Constitution. Proposed ratified amendments. Yeah. So nothing major there. Good. So the 2 district people that we're looking for was 69 for Sharon Ray or Gerald Kick, and you were in the 70th district. This one right here covers almost 99% of Medina County, and that's Mark Romanchuk. And then the Ohio Governor Executive Branch people. And this is where you could have gotten that information about who they are and their names and everything. So you got DeWine, Husted, Yost, Faber, Frank LaRose. Frank is actually running for the Senate position. I think he's running for the Senate because there's an opening. So Rob Portman's resigning, or he's stepping down. So when the next election comes up, our current Senator Robert Portman is not going to run again. Okay. I think that kind of covers it. One more thing, since I have you guys here, I'm kind of going over everything. This is the Medina County Board of Elections. All right, so if you ever are looking for something, all this stuff, absentee ballots, Medina County Board of Elections, but they also have ballots. So we get to, you can actually pull up on here your area. So we're going to leave that. So there's an election on the 2nd of November. You can look at it from just different levels, but we're going to leave it. And then this is actually going to find us all of Medina County. So here's Brunswick. All right. So if I come up here, I'm curious because I tried to find one last class to see if they had it on there. But so come down here. There's your mayor. Oh, sorry, municipal court. My bad. So again, we get to vote for the clerk of courts. I mean, every aspect of Medina County, we get to vote for those people. There's your Ron Falcone for mayor. No one's running against him. Member of council at large. There's that. For this one, city school districts, the Board of Education. This is a big one because Board of Educations have become like under fire recently with all the mask mandates and school policies. Anybody hear about the Hudson thing? Happened one about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm sorry, I forgot to bring it up. There was they were working with the English department was working with Hiram College, and they were using a book, and I think it was like 634 or 600. It was writing prompts. So it was an English class, and here's the book that we got from Hiram. Hiram's doing this for college level kids, but some of the writing prompts were, you had a sexual fantasy. Tell me what it was, but and why you wouldn't want to tell your mom about this. Like that was those writing prompts. One of them was, if you could murder someone, who would it be and why? Like, you see any potential problems with that at the high school? Yeah, but again, I think the idea was just to get them to write, but yeah, not so much. Anyways, the Board of Education, the mayor of Hudson actually went to the board meeting, and he asked for their resignation that night. He's like, I want all of your former resignations before you leave. If you don't, I will be filing some sort of lawsuit. I don't think he had any leg to stand on, legally wise, but he said it anyways. So yeah, there was a couple of really questionable things in that one. This one right here, as you guys are getting into this, some of you guys are on the verge of being able to vote, if not already able to vote. Renewal and increase. So renewal, this is from Medina County. We've already been paying this tax. All right. 75 mil, if you look at this, they try to give you a little explanation over here of what a mill is. So it's 0.085 cents for every $100 of valuation. So if you owned a property, it was only $100, you'd owe 9 cents. And then you divide that by 12 months, right? But most people own their property is $100,000. So you take that, divide that by the 0.085, and you get yourself your mill rate, how much. It ends up becoming, like, we at one point wanted a 5 mil increase for the school way back when I first started, to add, like, we were going to make the building into an L. So that whole area over there by the auto tech and auto collision would have become a whole new wing of the building, and the auto tech and everything would have been moving all the way out to the end of the parking lot. And we would have extended the parking lot backwards. It was really pretty cool, but it didn't pass. But that 5 mils would have been, they equaled it out to, 0.05 mil would have been equal to, I think we called it 2 Happy Meals in a month. That was kind of how we it's just 2 Happy Meals. It's 2 Happy Meals. That's all it's going to cost you every month in increase. So this one right here, though, is asking for a renewal of the one we currently have and adding on. So they want more money. And this is for the Medina, operating and maintaining the Medina County home. And that's, there's a rehab place in Medina. So I'm not sure if anyone knows about it, but there's the old steakhouse where the Medina Steakhouse used to be is now a facility run for rehab and other people that need help and assistance, plus other things that we help out throughout Medina County. So that's asking for a renewal and increase. Here's another renewal increase. This is the Medina County Health Department. So literally right by Walmart. You guys know what I'm talking about? You go to Walmart. It's right. If you're looking at Walmart, it's to the right. They want renewal of what they currently get plus an increase. And based off of the fact that they've been doing 100% more work with COVID cases and vaccinations and testing, it's probably not going to be a hard sell for the people. And that's it. So in this one, this area does not have to vote for of that, the Myers thing. What's Old Home? What's your city? Medina. So we got Wadsworth in here, Brunswick Hills, Chippewa Lake, Granger, Guilford, Homer, Lafayette, Liverpool. Oh, that's Medina Town. Is that Medina Township? Yeah. Did I miss it?
Yeah, you passed them. They were right under Brunswick, I think.
Oh, yeah, Medina City. There it is. Thank you. Yeah, so this one, same thing for municipal courts, City of Medina. Oh, mayor. You have a mayor up too, but no one's running against him. So probably going to win. Director of Finance, Council at Large, Ward 3, City School District, right? Only one more person there. Same thing. So there's that Medina County home and the Medina County Health Departments. Oh, City of Medina ordinance. I don't know what that one is. Have you guys heard about this ordinance? To eliminate the elected office of the Director of Finance and provide for the appointments of the Director of Finance by the mayor. So they don't want you guys to be able to vote for that person anymore. They just want to give it to the mayor. So they want to change the City of Medina's constitution, for lack of a better word, to allow the mayor to pick the city director of finance rather than you guys get to vote for director of finance. So that's it. Right. So again, all the different elections, all the ballots available there. Good. And that, I believe, is that. So tomorrow, the quiz will be, again, using this green sheet will be available. That note packet you guys can use. That's all it's going to be on. So you have your current grade, quiz over Ohio, and then nothing else. So no project for tomorrow. Good.